Have you ever looked at someone you've loved for decades and suddenly realized you don't really know them anymore? Not because they changed, not because they did something wrong, but because somewhere between work, raising children, paying bills, and trying to keep life together, the two of you slowly stop talking. A lot of marriages don't end with a fight. They don't end with someone walking out the door. Sometimes they end quietly, with two people sitting in the same house, living completely separate lives. Today, I'm sharing the story of a man who spent 40 years building a life with his wife. He thought their marriage was strong because they survived everything life threw at them. But after their children left home, he discovered something he never expected. He hadn't lost his wife. She was still right there. He had lost the connection between them. This is the story of Thomas, and how two people who became strangers found their way back to each other. The strangest part wasn't the day my wife left me, because she never did. She was still there. Every morning, I heard her footsteps upstairs. Every evening, her car was still parked in the driveway. She still asked me, "Do you need anything from the store?" She still folded my clothes, still left the light on when she went to bed before me. We were married 40 years. We still lived in the same house. But one night, sitting alone at our kitchen table, I realized something that scared me. I knew my wife's schedule, knew what time she woke up, knew which grocery store she liked, knew how she took her coffee. But I wasn't sure I knew her anymore, and I wasn't sure she knew me. That night, it was almost midnight. The TV in the living room had been off for hours. The dishwasher was humming quietly. Rest of the house was still. On the counter were two coffee mugs. One was mine, other belonged to Carol. Her mug was still there from dinner, cold, untouched. I remember looking at it and thinking, when did that happen? When did we stop sitting across from each other and start just existing in the same house? Because nothing dramatic happened. That's what bothered me. There was no affair, no huge betrayal, no night where somebody packed a suitcase and walked out, no screaming, no slammed doors. Our marriage didn't break. It just got quieter, a little quieter every year, till one day, the silence got louder than anything else. My name's Thomas. I'm 67 years old. For most of my life, I worked in construction. Started as a young guy carrying materials, learning from older men who knew how to build things the right way. Eventually, I became a supervisor, managed crews, handled problems, made sure projects got finished. Spent 40 years doing what I knew how to do. Fix things, solve problems, keep moving. That was always my way. If something was broken, you didn't sit around staring at it. You grabbed your tools and fixed it. That worked pretty well for my job, for my house, for raising kids. But I learned later, marriage don't always work that way. Sometimes the things that matter most aren't broken enough for you to notice. Carol and I met when we were young. She was different from me. I was practical. She was emotional. Not in a bad way. She just noticed things I didn't. She remembered birthdays. She knew when our kids were upset before they said a word. She could walk into a room and know something felt different right off. I was never good at that. If somebody asked me how I was doing, I usually said, fine, even when I wasn't. Carol always knew, or at least, she used to. We were married 42 years, had 2 kids, our son Michael, our daughter Sarah. We went through everything most couples go through. Raising kids, paying a mortgage, changing jobs, health scares, losing our parents, trying to keep everything together when life got expensive and stressful. Looking back, I think we did a lot right. We showed up, we stayed, we handled our responsibilities. And for a long time, I figured that was what a successful marriage was. You stayed together, you didn't quit, you took care of your family. Never understood a marriage could survive and still lose something important along the way. When our kids were young, life was loud. House was always moving. Somebody needed something. Somebody had practice. Somebody had homework. Somebody needed a ride. Always a problem to solve. And honestly, I liked that. Liked being needed. Liked coming home knowing there was a reason I'd worked all day. Then, slow, the house got quieter. Michael moved out. Then Sarah. And all of a sudden, Carol and I had something we hadn't had in decades. Time. At first, I figured that'd be the best part. No more schedules, no more rushing, no more worrying about everybody else. Just me and Carol. I thought, now we can finally enjoy life. But nobody tells you something about getting older. Sometimes, when you finally get what you spent years working toward, you don't know what to do with it. After the kids left, our days got predictable. Not bad, just predictable. I woke up early, always did, made coffee, sat at the kitchen table, read the paper. Carol came down later, watered the plants by the window. We said good morning. Sometimes we talked. Usually we didn't. Not 'cause we were angry, not 'cause we didn't love each other. Just wasn't anything urgent anymore. And I think that was the problem. For 30 years, life gave us reasons to talk. Then one day, it quit giving us those reasons, and we didn't replace them. I remember one Saturday morning. Carol was standing at the kitchen counter looking at her phone. She said, "Sarah wants us to come over next weekend." I looked up. "Both of us?" She smiled. "Yeah, both of us." I looked outside. Rain was coming down. Yard needed work. I had a few things in the garage I wanted to finish, and without really thinking, I said, "You go ahead. I'm tired." Carol looked at me a second, then just said, "Okay." That's all. No argument, no, "You never want to do anything." No disappointment, just, "Okay." And for some reason, that bothered me more than if she'd gotten upset. 'Cause years earlier, she would have cried, would have said, "Come on, it'll be fun," or, "You always say you're tired." But she didn't anymore. She'd quit trying to talk me into things, and I hadn't even noticed when that happened. A few weeks later, I tried. Don't even know why. Maybe I was starting to feel the distance. Carol was sitting on the couch, reading a magazine. I said, "Want to go out for dinner tonight?" She looked up, almost surprised. "Tonight?" "Yeah." She thought about it, then smiled a little. "Maybe another night?" I nodded. "Sure." And that was it. No fight, no hurt feelings. I sat back down. She went back to reading. Two people who cared about each other, but somehow kept choosing everything except each other. The moment I really started thinking about it was after Sarah moved away. She was the last one, and when she left, the house felt different. One afternoon, I walked past her old bedroom. Room was clean, too clean. The place where there used to be clothes on the floor and music playing was just a guest room now. A bed, a lamp, a few boxes in the corner. I opened one of the boxes, old pictures inside. I sat down on the edge of the bed and started looking through them. One picture from years back, Carol and me. Kids were younger, everybody smiling. I stared at that photo a long time, because I noticed something. The happiest years of our marriage weren't when life was easy. They were when life was so busy, we had no choice but to be together. And somewhere along the way, when life finally slowed down, we quit choosing each other. That evening, Carol and I were sitting in the living room. TV was on, neither of us was really watching. I looked over at her and I asked, "Do you ever miss when the kids were here?" She didn't answer right away. Then she said, "Sometimes." I nodded, figured that was all she was going to say. Then she looked at me, asked, "Do you miss them?" She paused. "Or do you miss who we were?" I didn't answer, 'cause for the first time in a long while, I didn't know. And that question stuck with me long after the TV went off, 'cause I didn't like what it made me think about. For years, I figured Carol and I had done everything right. We stayed together, we raised our kids, we paid our bills. We showed up when we were supposed to, and I was proud of that, still am. But I started wondering if I'd been mixing up being committed with being connected. There's a difference. You can spend 40 years standing beside somebody and still quit seeing them. After that conversation, I started noticing things. Not because I was watching Carol, not because I was hunting for problems, just started paying attention. And I realized Carol had built a life that existed outside of me. She had friends she met for coffee, had a gardening group, had a book club once a month, had her own little routines and places she went. Nothing secret, nothing unusual. Actually, it was healthy. Strange part was, I was glad she had those things. But I also realized something. I didn't know much about them. Couldn't tell you the names of everybody in her book club. Couldn't tell you which plants in the backyard were her favorites. Couldn't tell you what she talked about when she met her friends. And that bothered me, 'cause this was the woman I'd shared my whole adult life with. Then I realized something even harder. Carol wasn't the only one who'd built a separate world. I had too. I had my garage, my tools, my projects, my routines. Could spend a whole Saturday out there working on something that probably didn't need fixing. And honestly, I liked it. The garage made sense. A loose bolt was a loose bolt. A broken part had a reason. You found the problem, you fixed it. People weren't that simple. Maybe that's why I spent so much time around things I could fix. One Saturday morning, I was cleaning the garage. Not because it needed cleaning. Mostly because I had too much time and nowhere I needed to be. That's something nobody really warns you about after retirement. You spend 40 years wishing you had more free time. Then all of a sudden, you got it. And sometimes, you don't know what to do with yourself. I moved some boxes near the back wall. Behind an old shelf, found my fishing rod. Pulled it out. Handle was dusty. Line was tangled. I just stood there, holding it. 'Cause that fishing rod dragged up memories I hadn't thought about in years. Before kids, before mortgages, before work schedules ran everything. Carol and I used to fish together. Nothing fancy. Weren't serious fishermen. We'd pack sandwiches, fill a cooler, drive out early in the morning. Sometimes we caught something. Most times we didn't. But we didn't care. We were together. And back then, silence felt different. We could sit beside each other an hour without saying a word. And it felt comfortable. Not empty. Comfortable. There's a difference. That evening, I left the fishing rod on the kitchen counter. Carol walked in and noticed it. Picked it up. "You going fishing?" I looked over. "I don't know." She smiled. "You haven't gone fishing in years." I nodded. "I know." She put it back down, then started making dinner. And I don't know why, but I asked, "When was the last time we did something together?" She stopped, didn't answer, just stood there thinking. Then she said, "I don't know." 2 words, but they stuck with me. 'Cause she wasn't dodging the question. She honestly didn't know. And neither did I. 42 years married, and we couldn't remember the last time we spent a day together just 'cause we wanted to. Not on account of the kids, not on account of some obligation, not 'cause somebody needed something, just 'cause we wanted to be around each other. For a while, I tried telling myself nothing was wrong. I think a lot of men do that. We don't always deal with problems by talking about them. Sometimes we just keep going. Tell ourselves, we're getting older. This is what happens. Every marriage changes. And maybe that's partly true. Marriage does change. People change. Life changes. But I think I was using those excuses to dodge something. Truth was, I missed my wife. And she was sitting in the same house. The conversation that really changed things happened on a Tuesday night. Nothing special about that night. No argument, no big moment. Carol was sitting in her chair. I was on the couch. TV was on. Neither of us was watching. I looked over at her, and before I could talk myself out of it, I asked, "Are you happy?" She didn't answer, not right away. And that silence told me more than words could have. 'Cause she wasn't angry, wasn't offended. She was thinking. Finally, she looked at me. "I don't know." I looked down. 'Cause if I'm being honest, I wasn't sure I knew either. Part of me expected her to blame me. Figured maybe she'd say, "You were always working. You never wanted to go anywhere. You cared more about your job than me." And maybe there was some truth to that. I did work a lot, missed things, was tired more often than I should have been. But Carol didn't say any of that. Instead, she took a breath and said, "Thomas, I think somewhere along the way," she looked down at her hands, "we became really good parents." I looked at her. She kept going. But we stopped being husband and wife. I didn't say anything, 'cause deep down, I knew exactly what she meant. For most of my life, I figured being a good husband meant providing. That's how I showed love. I worked, paid the bills, fixed things around the house, made sure my family had what they needed. And those things mattered, still do. But I never stopped to ask a question maybe I should have asked years earlier. What does Carol need from me now? Not when the kids were little, not when we were younger. Now, today. That was the hardest part to swallow. Carol wasn't the reason we drifted apart. Wasn't me either. Wasn't one person to blame. We both disappeared into the roles we made for ourselves. She became the mother everybody leaned on. I became the guy who solved problems. And somewhere between raising kids and building a life, we forgot how to just be two people who loved each other. The old version of me would have tried fixing everything right away. That's what I did. Problem shows up, find the solution, make a plan, move on. But this wasn't a broken engine, wasn't a cracked wall, couldn't tighten a bolt and make it all work again. So instead, I started small. Next morning, Carol was making coffee. Usually, I'd have walked right past her, grabbed my cup, started my day. But this time I stopped. "How'd you sleep?" She looked at me, almost surprised. "Good." Then she smiled a little. "You?" "Pretty good." That was it. A simple conversation. Something most couples wouldn't even notice. But for us, it was different. 'Cause we were talking again. A few days later, I came home from running errands. Usually, Carol and I would have done the same thing. I'd walk in, she'd ask, "Everything go okay?" I'd say, "Yeah." And that'd be the whole conversation. But that day, I stopped in the kitchen. She was standing at the counter cutting vegetables. I asked, "How was your day?" She turned around, and again, I saw that same surprised look. Not 'cause the question was strange, 'cause I hadn't been asking it. She smiled. "It was good." Then she started telling me about her morning, something her friend said, something that happened at the garden club, a funny thing she saw at the store. Nothing important, nothing that had changed the world. But I listened, really listened, and I realized something. For years, I'd been waiting for my family to need me, wanted to fix things, solve problems, be useful. Didn't realize sometimes the person you love don't need you to fix anything. Sometimes they just want you there. The changes didn't happen overnight. Wish I could say one conversation fixed everything. It didn't. 40 years of habits don't disappear because you have one honest night. There were still quiet dinners, still awkward moments, still times we sat across from each other and didn't know what to say. But something had changed. We were trying. And sometimes, trying's the first thing people quit doing. A few weeks later, I asked Carol, "What do you want to do this weekend?" She looked up from her coffee. "What do you mean?" I smiled. "I mean exactly what I said." She looked at me. Usually I was the one with the plan. I'd say, "We should go here. We need to do this. I think we should." But this time, I wasn't offering a solution. I was asking what she wanted. She thought about it. "Maybe we could go somewhere." "Where?" She smiled. "I don't know." I laughed. "Neither do I." She looked at me. "That's new." "What?" "You not having everything planned." And she was right. Most of my life, I had a schedule for everything. Work, projects, vacations, home repairs. Always thought planning meant being responsible. But somewhere along the way, I forgot not everything worth doing needs a purpose. Sometimes you just do something because you enjoy being there. That Saturday, we drove about an hour out to a small town neither of us had been to in years. No big reason, no special occasion, just a drive. We stopped at a little diner, kind of place with old booths, a faded sign outside, a coffee pot sitting on the table before you even ask for one. We sat there longer than we planned, and funny thing was, we didn't talk about anything important. Talked about the waitress, the weather, a truck parked outside, our granddaughter's habit of saying words the wrong way. Small things, ordinary things. But when we got back home that evening, I realized something. Couldn't remember the last time Carol and I had laughed together. Not smiled, not politely reacted, actually laughed. And that bothered me. 'Cause I remembered laughing with her when we were young, before life got complicated, before everything got about responsibility. After that, we started walking after dinner, just around the neighborhood. At first, felt strange. Two people married 40 years, walking around trying to learn each other again. Almost like we'd gone backward. But maybe that's what we needed. To quit assuming we already knew everything. One evening, while we were walking, I asked, "What do you want to do when you were younger?" Carol looked at me. "What?" "I don't know. Before me. Before kids. Before everything." She thought a moment, then said, "I wanted to travel more." I looked at her. "You never told me that." She smiled. "I think I did." I shook my head. No, I would have remembered. She laughed, quiet. "Thomas." "What?" "You remember everything about work." She looked ahead. "But not always about me." That sentence stuck with me, 'cause she wasn't saying it to hurt me, wasn't trying to make me feel guilty, was just telling me something I needed to hear. A few months later, we went back to the restaurant where we had our first date. Wasn't anything fancy. Actually, looked completely different. Outside had been painted. Inside had new tables. Old sign was gone. But we recognized it. We sat down, across from each other, just like decades earlier. For a while, we didn't say much, just looked around. Then Carol smiled. "Can you believe how young we were?" I laughed. "No." She looked down at the table. "We thought we knew everything." I smiled. "We really didn't." She nodded. "No." A pause. Then she said, "But we were happy." I thought about that, because for years I figured happiness came from having things under control, a steady job, a paid-off house, money saved, a family doing well. And those things mattered, really did. But sitting across from Carol that night, I realized something. The best parts of life weren't the things I'd built, they were the moments I shared with somebody. And somewhere along the way, I quit sharing those moments with her. Around that same time, I found our old wedding photo again, sitting in a drawer with other stuff we hadn't touched in years. I pulled it out. There we were, young, smiling, thinking we had the whole world figured out. Carol had that same smile she always had, the one I hadn't seen enough of lately. I looked at myself, looked confident, like I knew exactly what I was doing. And maybe that's what made me laugh. 'Cause I didn't know. None of us do. We just spend our lives figuring things out as we go. Used to think Carol and I had lost who we were, but looking at that picture, I realized we hadn't disappeared. We were still there, buried underneath years of work, bills, schedules, responsibilities, life. We didn't need to get young again, just needed to remember what made us choose each other in the first place. After that day, I started looking at my marriage different. Not like something broken, more like something that needed attention. For years, I'd treated my marriage the same way I treated everything else in my life. Figured if nothing was falling apart, everything must be fine. House was standing, bills were paid, family was okay, so I figured we were okay too. But I learned something. Sometimes the most important things in your life don't break loud. Sometimes they just get neglected. One Sunday morning, I woke up before Carol, walked downstairs. House was quiet. For years, I'd have made one cup of coffee, just mine. That was my routine. But that morning, I opened the cabinet and grabbed 2 mugs, filled both of them. A few minutes later, Carol walked into the kitchen, stopped when she saw the second cup sitting there. "You made coffee?" I looked over. "Yeah," she smiled. "For me?" I laughed. "No, for the neighbor." She rolled her eyes, but she smiled. In that small moment, a dumb little joke over a cup of coffee felt bigger than it should have. 'Cause it wasn't about coffee, it was about us. It was about doing something small and thinking about somebody else again. After that, we kept trying. Not perfect, not every day. Still moments we slipped back into old habits. I'd get quiet, Carol would get busy. We'd both catch ourselves doing it. Then one of us would say something. Sometimes as simple as, "You okay?" Or, "Want to take a walk?" And that was enough. 'Cause before, we weren't fighting, weren't angry. We were just letting distance grow. Now we were paying attention. A few months later, Carol found an old box in the closet, brought it into the living room. "Look what I found." I sat down beside her. Inside were 40 years of our life. Old pictures, birthday cards, letters, things our kids made when they were little. She pulled out a picture of Michael wearing a baseball uniform way too big for him. We laughed. Then she found one of Sarah missing her front teeth, laughed even harder. I forgot about this. I smiled. You cried when she lost that tooth. Carol looked at me. I did not. You absolutely did. She smiled. Okay, maybe a little. And there it was, that feeling I remembered. Not excitement, not some big emotional moment, just being comfortable with somebody. Then she found another picture. A camping trip we took before we had kids. Just the two of us. A cheap tent, an old cooler, a little too much food packed because Carol always figured we might need more. She held the picture a while. I forgot about this. I looked at it. So did I. She smiled. I miss those two people. I looked at the picture, then at her. Me too. But for the first time, we weren't talking about the past like it was gone. Weren't saying those were the good years, like the good years had ended. We were realizing those people were still part of us. They just got buried under everything life asked of us. I still spend time in the garage, still fix things that probably don't need fixing. Carol still tells me I keep too many old tools. She's probably right. But now, sometimes she comes out there, brings coffee, sits in the old chair in the corner, and we talk. Not about bills, not about appointments, not about what needs doing. Just talk. One afternoon, I was fixing an old wooden chair. Carol stood in the garage doorway, watched me a minute, then she said, "You know." I looked up. What? She smiled. I like this version of you better. I laughed. What version? The one who actually talks. I shook my head. Was I really that bad? She thought about it, then smiled. Sometimes. I laughed. Fair enough. And honestly, I was glad she said it. 'Cause another thing I learned is this. A good marriage ain't two people who never hurt each other. It's two people who can admit when they did. I could have done better. I should have listened. I missed something. Those ain't signs a marriage failed. Sometimes, those are the words that save one. Our kids noticed the difference too. One Sunday, Michael came over with his family. Backyard was loud. Grandkids running around. Carol was laughing. I was standing by the grill. Wasn't some special occasion, just a normal Sunday. Later, when Michael was leaving, he stopped beside me. Dad? Yeah? He smiled. You and Mom seem different. I looked at him. Different good or different bad? He laughed. Good. Then he shrugged. I don't know. You just seem happier. I thought about that, 'cause he was right. But funny thing was, our life hadn't changed all that much. We didn't suddenly turn into different people, didn't move somewhere new, didn't have more money. We just started noticing each other again. Used to think the biggest threats to a marriage were obvious. Money problems, big arguments, serious disagreements. And those things can hurt people. But sometimes the thing that slowly wears down a relationship is a lot quieter. It's assuming somebody knows you love them. It's assuming there'll always be more time. It's thinking, I'll talk to him tomorrow. I'll take him somewhere next weekend. I'll make more time when things slow down. But sometimes things don't slow down. Sometimes tomorrow just keeps turning into another year. Now, when I sit at the kitchen table in the morning, there's still 2 coffee mugs, but both of them get used. Sometimes Carol sits across from me. Sometimes we don't say much, and that's okay. 'Cause now, the silence feels different. Don't feel empty anymore. Feels like the silence we had when we were young, when we could sit beside each other and just enjoy being together. Don't know how many years Carol and I got left. Nobody does. But I know something now I didn't understand before. Love ain't something you build once. It's not like a house where you finish the work and walk away. You gotta keep showing up, keep paying attention, keep learning the person beside you. 'Cause people change, you change, your spouse changes. And if you're not careful, you can wake up one day next to somebody you've known your whole life and realize you haven't really looked at them in years. When I think back to that night at the kitchen table, the night I saw 2 coffee mugs sitting there, I thought one of them stood for everything we'd lost. Thought it showed how far apart we'd become. But maybe I had it wrong. Maybe it was just a reminder the person sitting across from you is still there, still beside you, still waiting for you to notice. For years, I thought staying married meant never leaving. Thought it meant surviving the hard years, keeping the family together, making sacrifices. And those things mattered, really did. But I learned something later. Sometimes staying means finding your way back to the person who's been standing beside you the whole time. Carol and I ain't the same people we were when we got married. Nobody is. We got more gray hair, more memories, more mistakes, more things we've learned. But maybe that's the point. A good marriage ain't 2 people who never change. It's 2 people who keep choosing each other, even after they turn into different versions of themselves. And every morning now, when I make coffee, I make 2 cups. 'Cause after 40 years, I finally remembered something important. My wife was never just the person who stayed in the same house with me. She was the person I was supposed to keep walking through life with.